We're on 4.8, analyzing the graphs of polynomial functions. This is video number 2, and we're going to find all real zeros of a function. So, some core concepts here. Core concepts. Alright, so zeros, factors, solutions, and intercepts are all the same thing. So, if we let f of x be a polynomial function, the following statements are equivalent. So we had these as vocabulary words before, where we had zero, factor, solution, and x-intercept. That is all a solution to a polynomial function. Okay? It is a zero of a polynomial function. X minus that number is a factor of a polynomial function. It is also a solution, or you could even say a root. So really there could be a fifth term here. Of the polynomial function when it equals 0, and if k is a real number, then it is an x-intercept of the graph of the polynomial function, because the graph will pass through that point of k, 0. So we're really going to use x-intercepts to help us start to solve to find all the zeros of our polynomial function. So if we start with number 3, and this is a cubic polynomial. I'm going to want some paper here, so I'm going to move this here. Alright, so we need our first zero. We need to know where this crosses the x-axis. So I'm actually going to take my calculator. I'm going to type it in. So I get 6x cubed plus 5x squared minus 17x minus 6. Okay, if you don't have your graphing calculator and use Desmos, this is something Desmos can do. So, okay, we want the table. And I'm going to scroll up. If you look, we want to look at these y values when it's going from a negative to a positive, okay? That means there's going to be a 0 between the negative and the positive. In this case, there's a 0 right here. It is an exact 0, okay? But sometimes they're not exact. So I know x is going to equal a negative 2, because that's telling me that is on the x-axis, because that's when y is 0. And then I go through and I've got positive. See, between 10 and negative 6, it's changing signs, okay? This is called the location principle. It says between a positive, f of x being positive, and f of x being negative, we're going to have a 0. So I know there has to be a 0 somewhere between negative 1 and 0. But I don't know what it is. Okay? So I'm going to keep going. And again, here's a negative 12 and a positive 28. So somewhere between 1 and 2. So you can mark that if you would like, so you don't forget. So I know somewhere between negative 1 and 0, I have to have a 0 somewhere in there. And then somewhere between 1 and 2, I have to have a 0 in there. Okay, and since it's a cubic equation, I have to have 3 zeros. So this would be 1, whatever this number is, I'm going to find it, and this number is, I'm going to find it. So that would be my 3 zeros. So you can graph this, and you can see the only one that we can clearly determine for exactly the value is at negative 2. I can't determine that one. It's between 0 and 1. That one's between 1 and 2, just like we said. So the calculator can't help us anymore get those exact values. I take that back. Actually, it can, but I'm going to show you how to get them using synthetic division. All right, I know that x does equal a negative 2. So I'm going to take negative 2, and I'm going to divide it out of this equation. So my coefficients are 6, 5, negative 17, and negative 6. I wasn't missing any terms. The powers count down from 3, 2, 1, and this would be x to the 0. So I'm not missing any terms, so I don't need any zeros here. You always bring down the first term. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. 5 plus negative 12 is negative 7. Negative 7 times negative 2 is 14. Negative 17 plus 14 is negative 3. Negative 3 times our negative 2 is 6. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. If you don't get a 0 here, and we said that is one of our solutions, then you did something wrong in dividing, or it wasn't a solution. You should have a remainder of 0. Okay? So this leaves me with the equation of 6x squared minus 7x minus 3. Okay, now we want to factor this. And so we can solve. So I can't divide everything by 6 and make this a 1. So you take a times c and you multiply them together. And that is an x squared. And because I multiplied first and last terms. And I want it to multiply to negative 18x squared, but add up to a negative 7x. So I have to think of what multiplies to negative 18, adds to negative 7. Well, we know one has to be negative, one has to be positive to be able to multiply to a negative. And I could think of 1 times 18, not going to give me negative 7. 2 times 9 would give me negative 7. If the 9 is negative and the 2 is positive, they would add up to negative 7 and multiply negative 18. And those each get an x. So this is taking us back to factoring when we had to do it by grouping, okay? So I'm basically replacing this negative 7 with both of these terms. So I end up with a 6x squared minus 9x plus 2x, and then I still have a minus 3. Just replace negative 7x with these two terms. And this is where we kind of just look at the first two terms, kind of draw a line. What can I factor out of both of these numbers? Well, 3 goes in both 6 and 9, so I can factor out a 3. And x goes into x squared and x, so I can take out a 3x. And if I take 6x squared, divide it by 3x, I get 2x. Negative 9x divided by 3x is negative 3. Okay, then if I look at this other side, first off, this is a plus, so I'm going to leave this a plus. Nothing can go into 2x and a negative 3. So it's just going to stay grouped together. All right, so 2x minus 3 is in this whole term here. 2x minus 3 is right here. So I know I can factor out 2x minus 3 out of all of that. And it will leave me with what's left, 3x. Now plus, if you think of it as having a 1 in front, if I divide 2x minus 3 divided by 2x minus 3, I'm going to get 1. So this will be a plus 1. So to solve, to find my other two factors or zeros or however we want to call it, we're going to set each of these equal to 0. So I have a 2x minus 3 equals 0. And I have a 3x plus 1 equals 0. So I add 3 to both sides. So I get 2x equals 3. And I divide by 2. So x equals 3 halves. So that's going to be one of my answers. And here I'm going to subtract 1 to each side. So 3x equals negative 1. Divide by 3, x is going to equal a negative 1/3. All right, so when I list all of my answers, I have the negative 2. I also have a 3 halves, or 1.5, and I have a negative 1/3. So those are my 3 real zeros, and they're real zeros because they touch the x-axis. For number 4, we want to find all real zeros of this function. So I'm going to start off by entering it into my calculator. I've already done that. And I'm going to go to my table. So for second graph, and it takes you to your table. And we look for that location principle where it changes from, the y changes from a negative to a positive. Well, this one gives us an exact 0. So see, it was negative. Here it's positive. In between them, we have to have a 0. So I know that x is going to equal a negative 6. Okay, I'm going to have some more. I'm going to have 2 more, one there and one there, because this power is 3. And since we're finding real zeros right now, I'm telling you it has 3 real zeros. All right, Then we go, now it's positive, and then between -2 and -1, it changes, the y value changes from positive to negative. So I know there's another 0 between a -2 and -1. Okay, there has to be a 0 in between there. And then I keep going down, and it's negative, and then it goes positive between 0 and 1. So I know there has to be a 0 in there somewhere. Okay, if we were to graph it, you would see the only one we can tell for sure is that -6. Everything else is between. Okay, so I'm going to divide out the -6. Actually, let's see. I'm going to divide it out, and then I'm going to show you the shortcut. So -6. I'm not missing any terms here. It went 3, 2, 1, and then this would have had an x to the 0. So I write their coefficients in order, and I divide. So I'm going to bring down the first term, multiply together, add, multiply times -6, add up, multiply times -6, whoops, that'd be a positive 18, and that adds up to 0. You should get 0 if that is a answer. If that was not a true 0 of the function, then you would get a remainder. But if it is, you should always get 0. So this would be our constant, this will be x, this will be x squared. So I know I have 4x squared plus 4x minus 3. And I want to factor this. This all equals 0, okay, when I'm trying to solve, when I'm finding the zeros. So I need to factor this down. So I need to multiply the first term times the last term. So 4x squared times a -3, I get -12x squared. And I need what multiplies to this, to the -12x squared, but adds up to 4x. And I think that would be a positive 8x. I'm just joking, 8 doesn't go into 12. It would be, let's see, multiplies to negative. See, sometimes I have to think about factors here. And a -2. -2. Make that positive, sorry. Positive 6x, -2, multiply to -12. 6x minus 2x add up to 4x. See, sometimes factoring takes a little thought. I was just trying to write down numbers, and that's not going to work. Okay, you have to make sure they multiply to this and add up to this. All right, so I'm going to replace this 4x right here with these two terms. So I have 4x squared plus 6x minus 2x, and then I still have the -3. Okay, divide our equation in half there. Find factors here. Well, 2 goes into both terms, and so does x. 4x squared divided by 2x is 2x. 6x divided by 2x is 3. Then I have a minus. There is nothing that goes into 2x and 3. Now, I did factor out a negative, though, so this is a positive 2x. That makes that a positive 3. All right, so 2x plus 3 is in both. So I'm going to have a 2x plus 3. What I'm left with is 2x minus, and if I'm factoring out 2x plus 3, it does leave me with a 1. So it's going to be a -1. Now, if this equals 0, that means one or both of these terms has to equal 0. So 2x plus 3 equals 0, and 2x minus 1 will equal 0. And we solve. So for this left one, I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. Then to get x by itself, I divide by 2. So you get -1/2 or -3/2. On the one on the right, I add 1. And then I divide by 2 to both sides. So positive 1/2 is in between 0 and 1. -3/2, which is -1.5, is in between -2 and -1. So my real zeros are -6, -3/2, and 1/2. Don't forget the one that you get to start with. Now, if you want to do the shortcut, you can. I've already got it graphed here. We already know this was -6 because we looked at the chart, so I'm not even going to find that one. Your Big Ideas wants you to list these in order. So even if you just use your calculator, if you go to, we want the 0, so I'm going to push 2, and it says left bound. So I'm going to scroll to the left, see me pushing the left button, until it's on the left side of it. So I go left until it passes that point. Oh, see, there it is, and then it goes past, so it's past it, and it can go way past it, doesn't matter. It just has to be, x has to be big or less than -6. So I just push enter. See, it draws a line. Well, if I would have gone farther, it would have drawn a better line, but it draws a line, and you can tell that it's on the left side. And then I want right bound, so I'm going to scroll, I was right here, I'm going to scroll to the right until it goes past it, and it just goes past it right away. So I can just push enter. And then for your guess, you just have to push enter, and it tells you, okay, x was -6. Now this should say 0, and this basically is 0. I don't know why the calculator just puts weird things. If you have e here, it's 0, okay? I don't know. Every calculator is different. If I were to do this another time, I might get something else. That is 0. All right. Now I want this next one because we have to list them in order from left to right. So -6, which I happen to have listed right. And then I go over. So we calculate the 0, so number 2. Now I need to be on the left side of this one, but I still have to be to right of that. So I'm going to scroll over. I'm just going to push enter. See, it's between the two, so that's good. And then the right bound, I have to scroll till I'm past this one. And I went past it, so I push enter. Now for guess, just push enter, and then it puts it right on that dot, which is, see, it even told me 0 this time. So -1.5, which is that -3/2. And then we check this one. So second calc, number 2 is zeros. I need to be left of the right one, this one that I'm trying to find, but I need to be right of this one. So I've got to scroll so I'm between them. And then see that line ended up between the two. And then I scroll to the right till I'm right of it. That's what the right bound means. And that one already went past it. Push enter. My guess is an enter. And it tells me 0.5, which is the 1/2. So they have to be listed in this order when you enter things into Big Ideas. So now, go to your practice and do numbers 18 through 21.